Henry the dog with no tail. Henry wanted one thing in life. Henry was a dog with no tail, and this made him sad. All the other dogs he knew had tails. His best friend, Casey, a black Labrador, had a great big black tail that swung like a baseball bat and chased like a cat. His friend, Pip, a pug, could do tricks with her tail. She could twist it and curl it. Pip liked to put on shows for the other dogs. She'd ask the dogs in the audience to bark to 10, and before they were done, she tied her tail in a bow. And then there was Larry. Larry, whose real name was Larisma, was a prize-winning poodle whose tail stuck straight up in the air and had a big puffy ball stuck to the end of it. Henry didn't care if he had a long or thin or curly or puffy tail. He didn't care what kind of tail he had. Henry moped around his house, feeling sorry for himself. He moped and moped. His owners saw how sad he was, so they told him he should go find a tail. Henry thought this was a fine idea, and he left home in search of a tail. And naturally, when a dog goes in search of a tail, he goes to the tailor's. "Hello," said Henry. "Hello," said the tailor. "I am here for a tail," said Henry. "As you can see, I do not have one." "Well, perhaps you have an extra?" "I don't have tails here." "But I could try to make you one," replied the tailor. The tailor worked all day and all night and made a tail for Henry. The tailor buttoned it on, and Henry went on his way. He wanted to show off his new tail, so he went to the park. "Look," he said, "I've got a new tail." "Wow, cool," said Grady. "Does it do any tricks?" asked Pip. Henry ran around a circle and jumped over his tail. The first time he did a high jump, then he did a long jump. Then he ran backward and jumped. He did a spin jump, a low jump, and a leap jump. Then, what happened? He tripped. "Guess what? Dogs don't trip over real tails," said Larisma. "Well, I think your tricks are neat," said Grady. "Well, sometimes tricks take practice," added Pip. "It doesn't look like a real tail to me," said Larry. "If it were real, then wag it." Henry tried to wag his tail, but it wouldn't wag. "I told you it wasn't a tail," scoffed Larry. "It's a fake." Henry left the park feeling miserable. His new tail was too long, and worst of all, it didn't wag. What good was a tail that didn't wag? So Henry went to the wagon maker and asked, "Can you make my tail wag?" But the wagon maker said, "I don't make things a wag. I make wagons." Henry bought a wagon from the wagon maker. He filled his new wagon with food and water and left town, vowing never to return till his new tail wagged. He traveled for 3 days and 3 nights. He climbed mountains, went around lakes, but on the 4th day, he ended up in New York City's Battery Park. It was full of batteries. Henry decided to put one on his tail, and his tail started to wag, to move around. Henry packed up his wagon and headed home. His tail started wagging so fast it was hard to walk, so he ran. Then his tail started wagging so fast it was hard to run, so he sat down. His tail pushed him the rest of the way. "Look," said Henry, "my tail wags." "Wow, neat, cool," said Grady. "Huh," scoffed Larry. "You can be in my show," said an excited Pip. Which was good, because Henry's tail was wagging so fast it lifted him off the ground and threw him along like a frisbee. Since not many dogs have tails that can toss them across the field, Pip was sure the show would be a great success, so she called all the dogs together. After finishing her act, Pip announced her new partner. "Introducing Henry the dog with the super tail. It isn't like any tail anywhere at any time in any place. Please put your paws together for Henry." The dogs put paw to paw and barked around a pause. At this point, Henry was supposed to fly onto the stage, but he didn't. Instead, he shouted, "I'm up here!" All the dogs looked up. Henry was in the air, flying like a helicopter. Grady and the other dogs thought this was a pretty cool trick and shouted, "Higher and higher." But Henry didn't want to go higher. He wanted to go lower. He wanted to be on the ground chasing balls, not up in the air dodging birds. Henry was scared. He grabbed onto a branch at the very top of the tree and held on as tight as he could. "Higher, higher, higher," chanted the dogs below. All the dogs, that is but one. "Take the battery off your tail," yelled Larry. Even though it was Larry's idea, Henry knew it was a good idea. He took the battery off his tail and it stopped wagging. Then he took off his tail and hung it from a branch on a tree. And Henry, the dog with no tail, carefully climbed down the tree. "Neat, cool," said Grady. "What a show," exclaimed Pip. "You know, I guess you're not so bad without a tail," conceded Larry. Henry agreed. "I think my days of having a tail are left behind me." To this day, Henry's tail remains on the tree, flapping like a flag in the wind. And to this day, Henry the dog with no tail is very happy that he's a dog with no tail and a tale to tell. The end.